Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan video. In this video we are going to be taking a look at the physical LR Goku and how he does after his Extremes Awakening at 100% in the Hidden Potential system. So to easy aid this Goku, you do have to complete the Greatest Warrior missions, and obviously completing the Greatest Warrior missions is part of the tutorial experience now in Dokkan Battle. The Goku is pretty interesting. He greatly raises attack and defense 1 turn on his 12 key, and he also greatly raises defense permanently, whilst greatly raising his attack for 1 turn on his 18 key, which is pretty cool. He is also a lot tankier with key plus 2, attack and defense of 158%, additional 58% attack and defense when performing a super attack, guards all attacks as a first attacker in the turn, reduces damage received by 30% for 3 turns from his entry, launches an additional super attack within the same turn after receiving an attack, gets an additional attack and defense of 10% with each attack received up to 30%, and crit chance of 10% per super attack, obviously as well. He gives allies attack and defense boost, as well as also receives an additional attack boost if he is facing an extreme class enemy, or if he is the first attacker in the turn. He has an active skill that can also be activated, and this will massively temporarily raise his attack. This also, in terms of build, he has crit chance based on how many superclass allies he has. So I would probably change the build to being an additional and evasion centric build, as this will be much better for him overall. But you can obviously change that, I guess, to being something that is probably just more evasion centric overall, with a little bit of additionals to kind of take advantage of that crit. All in the family, Shattering the Limit, Kamehameha, Saiyan Lineage, and of course Legendary Power make up the majority of his link set, with Not Prepared for Battle being the biggest hindrance to him, but otherwise a pretty good unit. In terms of everything else, he's on a decent number of categories, and because he's so easily accessible, I think overall he's a pretty good unit. So obviously that is Goku. His EZA is very accessible and plenty of players will have it. So let's see just how good he is. Now obviously we're running him under a Kamehameha team, which is 200% lead. For the most part we'll have a decent number of links active, but the main one will be All in the Family. It's quite a significant defensive boost, and it makes his defense very different. But all in all, Goku starts off pretty good, around 230k defense. This goes up substantially though, as each attack received increases his attack and defense by 10%, but this is a multiplicative because it occurs obviously after all the other multipliers in his passive. So he actually goes up quite a bit from this. On top of that, he greatly raises defense, so you can see him very quickly go from 230k to being at around 430,000 by the next turn, which is pretty good. Remember, on top of all of that, he has built-in additionals as well, so Goku has a pretty good build. I wouldn't say he's a first slot tank, but he can get pretty tanky, and guarding all attacks in the first slot is pretty helpful. This is the Gogeta Blue, or I should say the Gogeta Magnificent Supreme Battle event, and Goku handles tanking really well throughout this whole event with relative ease. In fact, if you just keep him in the first slot and let him stack, generally speaking he does pretty well. Remember, after Super his defense goes up quite significantly due to the fact that he has 58% attack and defense on Super. So Goku is pretty good. Honestly, I think he's really impressive, all things considered, considering he's a free-to-play unit as well that everyone is going to have from the beginning of the game. I genuinely think he is really good. Like, I think he's actually really solid. He's also good as a floating support as well, due to the fact that you don't need to keep him on rotation all the time. The only thing that is going to happen is you are going to miss out on the fact that he's going to have guard, because you're not running him in that first slot. So that is the one thing that is a bit of a hindrance if you move him out of that position. But generally, for the most part, I find that Goku looks really good across the board. I think he's honestly very impressive, all things considered. His active skill is also very easily accessible, which is really great. The only issue is that against non-extreme enemies, he is going to lose out on that attack buff unless you run him in the first slot, and I wouldn't say he's a first slot unit all the time. I think he stacks at a decent rate and can get to some good high raw defense numbers, but raw defense and guard isn't enough nowadays for certain events, but for a lot of events it'll be enough, and he's really, really good. I mean, again, cannot stress this is a free-to-play character. I know people will say, ooh, offensively he's not insane, but you got to remember that he's packing a lot of utility inside of him. Active skill, 130% Saiyan Saga lead, leads his own decent team, a support character, guard, damage reduction. He's got a lot going on, so I think overall it's okay to forgive that his attack stats might not be at the highest level, but they are still pretty good, all things considered. Plus he has a lot of crit built in, so it's pretty easy to see why they didn't want to give him huge attack stats, because of how big that crit factor is, and because of how good his defense can get. All things considered, I think Goku is really good. He's really fun. Tried him out in a lot of different events. I think he's pretty good right now in a lot of them. How he'll do after the 10th anniversary, we'll have to see. But all in all, I find him to be a really, really awesome unit. That's honestly a lot of fun to use. So I, for one, am very happy with this. And yeah, I think overall he's really solid. But yeah, that's it from me, really. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think, for a free-to-play unit, I'd have to give Goku a really, really good recommendation. Obviously, everyone's going to have him, so I can't really be like, oh, make sure you get him, because like you should have him. Like it's really not hard to get him. So I can't really be like, well, he's mandatory to have or anything. But I think for a unit that they're basically giving every player, and for a unit that's going to be players' first experiences in Dokkan, like in their first experience of like the game, and like building their first team, what he can do, I think honestly he is really, really solid. And for veteran players, I think it's great to get a very flexible support style unit that you can use in a lot of content. So I'm very, very impressed with him. The only thing I will say is that his links are a little bit wonky. Obviously sharing the limit is fine, it's free to play. Legendary power, Kamehameha is fine. Saiyan lineage is okay. Experienced fighters is okay. And all in the family is fine, but there's just not a huge array of units that use it. I do think fortunately he shares it with the Kamehameha lead in the form of Gohan, so I think that works out in his favor. So ultimately you could just probably run him alongside that Gohan. The two of them probably make a pretty nice combo, and I think that warrants enough links between them to make it work. I think they share all in the family, Saiyan lineage, and Kamehameha and legendary power, which honestly is actually pretty much fine. So all in all, really, Goku, awesome, great unit, great flexibility, awesome free-to-play unit, and definitely a really, really great reward for completing those Greatest Warrior missions. So I think that's really good, and yeah, I think ultimately, I think he's a really great unit, so I'm very, very happy with his overall performance. But that's pretty much going to be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. And yeah, that's basically it. So I will see you guys in the next one. So then, as always, take care, stay safe, and thanks for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.